So just for today, do not worry. And this is the first precept in Reiki. And I want to talk about worry in a way that's from a spiritual practice and not a secular practice. Because I hear a lot of this toxic positivity that when you have a spiritual practice, you know you're using toxic positivity to band-aid a bullet wound. You know you're tricking yourself. And in Pause and Joy, we want to admit where we're tricking ourselves. So that, because we have tools of the dynamic tapping or the meditation practices or doing things energetically that will remove that, dissolve it, collapse it. So I think when you don't have the tools that go further to agitating what you have discovered and killing it, getting rid of it, then you have a tendency to use toxic positivity to band-aid a bullet wound. So I just wanted to start with that when we talk about just for today, do not anger, which was our last one, which is in February, that is on YouTube. And just for today, do not worry. And these are precepts, so they are reminders. They're not laws. They're not rules. They are a realization. They are a mindset so that you are aware of your tendencies. And there is nothing wrong with worry when it is giving you an indication of something to do or not to do. I'm worried that if I don't study, I'm not going to get the mark that I want. Well, you are correct in that worry. I worry, like earlier I was doing this and I just started, and because of last week and the holidays, my gardeners didn't come on Friday. I didn't notice it, I wasn't here. So they came today, and I had just started the live. So I worried that the noise was going to, of the machines, was going to come through, and then when I upload it to YouTube, you're going to be able to hear it for 15 minutes. And my worry was correct, because I am not in the restraints of I have to do it at this time for you. So I can do it at a later date, which you were all, quite, okay, great, do it at a later date. Yeah, we don't want to hear that noise. But do you understand how my worry of that coming up for this recording being held in time and space for the future uploading, and then watching it in the past, they're going to hear that noise, which I could have avoided. So worry is about, can I avoid this? Can I avoid this? Now, first of all, we have to be aware. And we have to be aware that we are actually having those thoughts. Because most people don't actually know that they're in a constant and perpetual state of overthinking something or fixating on something they don't want to happen, which we know is a bad use of imagination. So someone that's constantly worrying about the worst case scenario, there are two options there. Am I worrying about it and I don't know that I'm ruminating, giving it airspace constantly because this is who I think I am. This is my normal. And I'm sure we all know people like that, especially in our family, in older generations. Because in the older generation, they would say, well, I'm just a worry-wart. That was an expression, still an expression. I'm just a worry-wart. I'm just a worrier. I am is an affirmation. It is an affirmation I'm telling myself so I don't need to change it. But sometimes, because we all know people that don't want to change it. Because that takes effort. And it takes the responsibility of having the awareness to self-correct. Now, we have the mantras of old. Well, things like that don't happen for people like me. Things like that, that's just in my family. You know, we do that. Do you? Do you? Or did you just, agree to something that may not be your state of being? So as I said earlier, I worried about something, that the gardeners were making a noise outside that I didn't anticipate coming today, and I decided to stop the recording because I worried it would make a noise and would come up, and it was already making a noise and they were far away, so they got closer and it was really noisy. So rather than being agitated and being annoyed or being irritated that they came at a day that wasn't their day, but they were making up for last Friday, I just, made a decision, adapted, pivoted, moved on. Now let's look at the awareness to worry that's also in a healthy place. When, say, a comedian that I know, he's working out some material and he's worried that the joke won't land. He's worried that the joke won't land. You might be worried about launching your website. You might be worried about launching something. And in that worry, there is also excitement of, is it going to land? Is it going to, I don't know, I have to put it out. But you also have that worry that it won't reach people. It won't land with someone. But in that movement of excitement through the fear, you take a risk, you do it, because then life would be dull if you just did it without any fear, any excitement, which some people also get confused with anxiety and then never do anything. So worry can begin to inflate into our being neurotic. It can go into procrastination of doing nothing, not launching anything, not putting anything out, because you're over worried. And that over worry is a mask for all the effects of you not doing what you came here to do. So I think the easiest way to describe this, and I was thinking about it this morning, because I find that the wellness community has went down this well. And if I withheld water from you and you were training for an Ironman, you would have cramps, you would have certain physical symptoms of being dehydrated. You would have these aspects of getting dizzy, having no energy, feeling like you're going to pass out. And then we fixate on, are you dizzy and feeling like you want to pass out? Well, you should do this, but they don't give you the water. And a practice is kind of like that as well. So the practice of self-awareness and getting a practice energetically to know where have I been sitting, staring into space, worried about this thing for the last 30 minutes? Where am I scrolling through social media because I'm really worried because I'm comparing myself to others and I'm coming up short? I'm worried I'm not doing enough. I'm worried that I'm not doing something. And you would be correct. But the other thing just is a distraction. So that label and that lens that we use of I'm just a worrier, and also it's used sometimes in family of, well, I just worry about you. Because it's a love language. And a lot of people go through that when their kids go to college and they leave. And they say in their love language, well, I'm just worried about you. And they sit and worry while they're living their best life at college. And they're fine. But that's that indulgence again. Because then I don't have to face it. They're really having a good time. And I'm the one that the worry is masking, missing them, or feeling to use worry as a misplacement to looking at what is underneath the worry. What is it masking for me sitting with? And I think if you just start with that, of the recognition of worry, I think you'll do really, really well. Magic? Hey. So firstly, acknowledge and take responsibility that you are worrying. And is this a fixation? Or is this something that I can do something about the worry? Is it telling me, oh, I'm worried that that might happen, so I need to put in a contingency plan? Or I need to do something? Or am I just fixating on something that may be one of 10,000 ways that this could go? But I seem to have chosen that one, because that one could be a pattern for you. That one could always be your go-to, that always happens to me. Now, that's another part of this video, and we'll do that at another time. But just the recognition of what is underneath the worry, I think, is a good place to start. And am I actually addicted to worrying? Is there some kind of fake control if I just fixate and worry about this thing and I don't need to let anything else in? It's sometimes kind of like a dog with a bone that doesn't want to give up its bone of worry. Because underneath the worry, you may know that change is coming. You may know that you have to change, that you need to let something or someone go. And if that's in relationships of, I'm worried that this might not work out. I'm worried that if I say this to my friend, then it might not land. But do I need to say it? Do I need to have this level of truth with them? And if that is important to you and it has to be said, and you are willing to take that chance that it won't land, that maybe this is a moment for you to look at the friendship, because it might be an unhealthy friendship where you're mute and the other person is being enabled by you. And there's a rabbit hole that you go down with worry, and it can escalate and it can take over. And it can go into panics, it can go into shutdown, it can go into headaches, it can go into stomach problems, because you're overly worrying about what you don't want to happen. I would rather that you worried about amazing things that you didn't want to happen because you think it would be too much for you. That would be a better place of your worry to fixate on. What if I won't be able to handle it? What if I became this, and this? Well, you can deal with that when you cross that bridge and go and get therapy or do some dynamic tapping with me. But I'd rather you worried about things that you could be creating. That is your next stage. But overly worrying is first being aware about your thoughts. Being aware that your thoughts, many years ago, 10 years ago, I remember someone saying to me, wow, we have to really be like so responsible for our emotions. And I didn't really think it appropriate to say it in that moment, well, really it's your thoughts. Because they were already agitated that they had to be aware of their emotions, but their emotions come after their fixated thoughts. And you know when you sit there worrying, it's like draining a battery. You want to lie down. So what are some of the things that you can do? You can get a meditation practice. And again, see where the worry, well, I'm not good at that. Yeah, you're not good at anything that you don't practice. Being in a place where if you do yoga, if you do anything in a group activity, watching how you worry about what everybody else is thinking about you. That's what the whole asana practice is about in yoga. All of the postures are there for you to practice staying on your own mat and not looking around the room, comparing yourself to others. And if you can spend 60 minutes being in the practice of just movement without where's Wally around the room, looking to see who you're better than, who's better than you, who all the stuff that goes through your head. Oh, I like their top. That's a really great hairdo that they've got. Whatever it is. Oh, I should get that. Years ago when I used to do sweat lodges, they were and they were built on the sweat house idea that is in Scotland, of the hive. And in this place, we were in this blackness, this pitch black. And the reason for that was that you couldn't go around trying to make eye contact, being like, oh God, isn't this, it's a lot, isn't it? Or checking out what people were doing or wearing or what they looked like. You were just in the void with you. with other people also in that place. It was extremely transformative. And if you can practice that and stop worrying about what people are thinking about you and what people are making up about you, to be honest with you, you're not that really big in other people's pie charts, because people usually are more self-absorbed than that. There's a news flash for you. And if they do, you're just one of a ticker tape of thoughts. So really, when you find yourself worrying, ask yourself this. If I got out my journal today and just totally wrote down all the things I was worried about, would I want to do it? Would I want to put those thoughts onto paper? If you understand manifestation, and you would maybe not. If you wanted to do it just to get it out of your head and then not read it, would you go back and read it? And then you would probably see the garbage that you're allowing your mind to wander into. So these are just things to consider with worry. These are things to, and the thing is, someone had asked me earlier, oh, what's the affirmation for not worrying? Living true. Trust. You know, these are also things that you can tell yourself, but it's really in action that you trust yourself. It's really in practice. So when you're out and about, just notice where your mind is wandering. Even when you're driving. You know, sometimes people can really worry in the driving. And they ask themselves, God, I don't even remember being on the 101 or being on that road or how I got here. Because where was your mind? So the more that you can master being aware. And the thing is, you cannot be policing yourself, because then there's no joy. Oh my God, I had that thought. Oh my goodness, why am I thinking like this? And then you start berating yourself. Rather than looking at the underbelly of, why am I thinking those thoughts? Where is that insecurity coming from? Why am I always putting myself down? What is it I have to work on there? What do I need to excavate? Or is my worry a place that makes me feel secure and happy? And when I don't do it, I feel this open space where there's possibility that I'm hypervigilant against because of X, Y, and Z. So I hyperfixate on worry to fill up the space of not having any thought, or using my imagination to have thought into places that I hadn't considered. And we start to use that mental gym. So these are just things for you to consider, because these precepts were chosen deliberately, there's 5 of them, as an invitation to happiness. It wasn't for happiness. It was an invitation. So there is an interaction there energetically and interfacing with consciousness to invite happiness. And I really believe that these are the times to choose a practice or the practice that you have, and rather than it being surface or shallow, get a little bit deeper with it. Sometimes we go around collecting more ideas, more things, because we don't want to sit with what is. And if we worry that if we stop and just be with ourselves, we're going to learn something. But that's when you need to look at your practice and be, are there tools in this practice and principles in this practice that allow me to be in real life situations? Or is it just another collection, another hoarding of other workshops to do? Is it going to help me in this 3D reality? Or am I going to work in the 5th dimension and the 8th dimension and ignore the 3rd? That's my reality. Because if you're working in the 5th and you're working in the 8th or you're working in the 12th, how is that benefiting you? And if you see the benefit in the 3rd, then it's working for you. But spiritual escapism from the 3rd dimension that we're in right now is also occurring. But I'm worried if I start working on the reality of the things that are in my awareness, that it's going to be hard. And sometimes we have to do hard things. But we have to enjoy doing the things that are excavating ourselves. Because if you don't enjoy it, and when I say enjoy, I'm not meaning enjoy, that everything has to be enjoyable, right? In a saccharine kind of way. Sometimes when we do things that are hard, we get a sense of seasoning that, wow, I didn't know that I would really enjoy that. And if we go back to even doing anything physical, if any of you know who have done anything physical, if you've done yoga and you're like, oh my God, I hate this pose, I hate this pose. And then when you start to get better at it, you're like, oh my God, I love that pose. I love that pose. You just didn't like not doing it well. Wasn't it you didn't like doing it? You didn't like being the novice. You didn't like to be the green. You didn't like to be the learner. You didn't like to not know what you were doing and be frustrated with yourself. Kind of like a child. You know, when you see children not being able to do something, they have such a reaction of frustration and irritation until they begin to master it. And when you start to teach your children that learning is extremely important, to let them know other people are also really good at this as well. And when people play sports, they really get that, especially young people, because they understand, they join those dots together. If I sit here and worry about my performance, then I'm not in the practice. I'm not doing my practice. And it's the same with adults, but in a different realm. If you don't do your practice, then there's a gazillion things to worry about, which then leads to more things and worry and stomach problems and ulcers and headaches and dehydration and all sorts of other aspects. So it is our own personal responsibility to be aware of how much we worry or how we indulge our thoughts of worry. And just catching it. Just catching that vividness of your story time in your head. And inquire. Why do I always think the worst? I just start with that. Because just being aware you're doing it is over 50%. So I'll do another one of these. But let's just start there, because I think that's enough for today. If you have any questions or anything that you want to be in this, or scenarios and things, do DM me, and we'll correlate that so that we are interfacing with reality. You know, my work is based around people's real journeys, real healing, real launching of businesses, real problems that they're going through or challenges. I have 20 years of working with real people doing real things, not theories or scenarios of oh, just let that go. Yeah, it's a little bit more, it's deeper than that. Because we're all unique in our individual stories and individual experiences of what have happened to us. That then comes up against a collective, if we look at the Me Too movement, that was a collective, but everybody has their own individual experience that's so personal. It's like grief. You can read books on grief, but there is a personal experience through it that is unique to you. So although there is a grief banner or Me Too banner, there are also individual aspects that are personalized to you that you have to excavate and be in and go through. Just like worry. You're all going to come to worry from inheriting it from your parents because they were worry-warts. My mother was a worry-wart. So I'm just in duplication. Or through things that have happened to you, abuse that has happened, violence. So if I worry, there's a safety there, there's a control there that I don't think about anything else, but it's very imprisoned and trapped. So let's take a nice deep breath. Just so that we can let all of that land. Not land, you might need to listen to it again. Because these things are loaded. It's not a bumper sticker. It is a mindset, a lifestyle choice if you want. It is a commitment. So I hope with these videos you begin to use it in whatever way you're using it, whatever you're going through. Some of you might be going through divorce. Some of you might be launching businesses. Some of you might be leaving a job, going for interviews, you know. There's so many different aspects to life that we can worry about. And my hope for you is, my intention for you is that through this that you can see it more as not something that is done to you, that it is something that you can build as a muscle and practice. But first we have to acknowledge that it's there and where you are on the dial. So I hope that was helpful. Good to see you all, and I will see you again at the weekend. We'll do another one of these, but again, DM me, tell me what your thoughts are, and or maybe some of you use this whatever landed with you or resonated, and tell me how you used it, and I'll share that anonymously, and so that it encourages everybody else to try things. But that's what community is. It's not about taking something for yourself and just using it and not giving feedback back of, oh, I used it in this way, because then that helps everybody else in the community. But sometimes there is that mentality, I feel, in the wellness places of like this smash and grab, you know? Oh, I need that for me. And that's why I tell the stories of some of my students. And some of my students come online to tell you the reality of doing this work. Because they want to help other people have something that resonates in them in sympathetic resonance. Not that they're keeping it to themselves, well, this worked for me, so screw everybody else. Because that's what community is. Love you all. And yeah, I was going to do it last weekend, but it was Easter and everything, and a lot of you were away. So I'll do it this weekend, even though it's Coachella. And everybody's in the desert. So, speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.